We use both formal and informal assessment with early childhood. The informal part, I think, is something that teachers just naturally kind of do. We're always observing the kids and using that kind of to, guide, just even walking in the hallway, like, oh, I noticed this kid's struggling with this. You can use it to guide your instruction. So we observe, they take interest in a certain topic. Oh, let's use that and kind of build our lessons off of that. A lot of it, in terms of, I guess, observing, is more authentic sometimes. You catch the kid in their natural environment, kind of doing what they enjoy doing. It's more grade appropriate, age appropriate sometimes. A lot of the formal assessments you think of, maybe with older kids, pencil and paper, that kind of stuff, our kids can't necessarily do that. So to have them try and do some of the formal stuff isn't necessarily age appropriate. We do use some formal assessment though, and the point of that, of course, is just you get a better picture. You get the informal with the formal, and it just creates a better overall picture of that child and kind of what they know and maybe what needs they have that you need to address. This one is, we do some formal, but it's usually just, hey, let's point at these letters and see what they know. It's not something that it's not the pencil paper kind of assessment that you might typically think of, but we are constantly assessing the children, observing and taking notes and using that to guide our instruction and communicate with parents and help out children, whatever the needs might be and where they might be struggling or exceeding, and even use that to maybe help them, challenge them more if they need that. So a lot of just observing and trying to assess in their personal environment, like where they're comfortable. A kid might not respond to the formal part of it, but if he's playing with his dinosaurs that he enjoys playing with, I can help assess maybe by, hey, let's count those dinosaurs. He might not want to point to numbers or dots and count in that way, like paper form, but if he's playing with his dinosaurs, he's engaged, and it's more authentic in that manner with him, because that's what he enjoys, and I can get maybe more out of him. Language, that kind of stuff is easier to get when we're assessing them in their natural environment, and that's kind of our job then, is to set up that environment so that those opportunities present themselves to where I can go over and say, oh man, I love those blocks you built. Why'd you build them that way? Why did you use those shapes? What shapes did you use? All those things can come just from watching them, play, and I can get my assessment kind of that way instead of the formal what we're used to thinking of, hey, let's sit down and take a test. Our program we use, it's called Teaching Strategies Gold. It's our assessment tool that we use. And it's all linked up by age, all of the indicators and domains that we check for throughout the year is there for each child. So I can go in and put in, scores for each child, and then at the end of the semester, so we do it in the fall, winter, and the spring. At the end of each semester, then we go in and put their scores in, and then I can print off different reports. And so I can see which kids, mastered this skill, which kids are still struggling with this skill, and then I can use that to kind of guide, let's do a small group with this group who's struggling with the counting. It's also helpful then for parents, and within there's a plethora of different reports that I can print. I can do some, like I said, for me, to see where, as a whole group, the kids are struggling, but then also come conferences, I can print off individual reports for, say, that child. I can print off a report with every single skill that we assess. I can give it to the parent so they can see, this is what we see him doing in class. This is the next progression of that skill. So then they can take that, they get to take those reports home with them, and then that's easy for them to kind of reference back and, oh, that's right, he said we need to work on writing his name, so let's take some time out and practice writing his name. So that's kind of what we use the reports for. We can print off different ones, like I said, depending on the parent and how in-depth they want the report to be. I usually try to keep it kind of simple because we have lots of skills that could be a little overwhelming. But formally and informally, I think assessment is something that we maybe don't necessarily think about that with early childhood, but it is a very important aspect of the job, and one that we're constantly doing, whether formally or informally, is a big part of it, because we're just constantly observing the children and using that to guide assessment with the young ones.